It's the Jay and Thomas Podcast, an hour of commentary on today's top stories, current events, or just life in general. And here are your hosts, Jay and Thomas Darden.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jay and Thomas Podcast. This is episode 9. We're going to be talking about some pretty interesting things today. Hopefully everybody enjoys kind of what goes down there. We'll start off as we normally do every podcast episode and ask the man of the hour. Hey Dad, how you doing?
I am doing excellent. Excellent today. Been a good day. Got my visa today.
Oh yeah? Cool.
So I have a 2-year two-year visa. And I'll get my cedula probably in the next couple of days, that being like a social security card / driver's license. It's got your picture and address and all that on it.
Right.
And everything here is based on the 10-digit cedula number like we talked about before.
Yeah.
So I'll have to go into the big city to acquire that. So
Awesome.
there you go. Been a good day. Yeah,
So
I'm legal now, I guess.
well, and hey, you know, it's a scenario where not everybody in the places that they go become legal. So it allows you to continue to talk about air quotes illegals and whatnot with reckless abandon. So no worries there. But yeah, very cool with the visa.
Reckless abandon,
yeah, hey, that's it. You know, become legal.
That's pretty funny because Bob drove a motorcycle down here for like 6 years with no driver's license, and I don't know how he pulled that off, because when they stop you, they want your peppers.
Well, as we have mentioned somewhat briefly before, you could definitely grease the right person's palms and get away with almost whatever you want. So
Pretty close.
The benefits of living not in the lawless land, but living in a place where
abroad,
you know, money speaks louder than words. Actually, that probably goes for everywhere. But when you are someone who then has the money, you should be able to be good to go. Something that I thought was pretty interesting recently. There are certain things that are illegal for the poor, but not for the rich, right? So it's basically anything with a fine is something that is legal for people who have money, and the things that and folks who don't have money are not legal. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There are several things online that talk about that, like little threads or forums and stuff, because you know, if you ever had a rich friend and they're not afraid of doing something that just a fine is involved, then it's like, oh, is that like that's illegal? And they're like, no, it's not. You just pay this fee and you're good. So even the concept of criminality there isn't really there. It's just, I just have to pay to do this. And then the person who doesn't have as much money, it's like, oh no, that's very illegal, because then that can incur more penalties if you can't pay for it and whatnot. So that's kind of wild. Speaking of breaking the law and whatnot, what does your shirt say? If you can't bite what? It's got like a little dog on it or something.
Yeah. It says, if you can't bite, don't growl.
If you can't bite, don't growl.
If you can't bite, don't growl. Yeah. So there you go.
Awesome. Well,
had this shirt since before you were born, probably.
I doubt that, only because of the coloration. I've seen the shirts that are pre me days, and of course, you know, I'm in my 30s, and they definitely don't stay that white. So I'll have to see the receipts on that one. But our first topic of the day, and what you kind of teased at last time, was, when did America become soft? Okay, and you're posing that question, of course, to me and the world in this case. Drop a like and a comment on why you think America became soft, or did it become soft? And you know, let us know what you think down below. But so you're speaking on America became soft, and you mentioned about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Where America at one point in time had the means and the capability, we definitely do now, based on nuclear stockpile, dropped the first atomic bombs onto actual populated areas as a means of ending a war. I believe, were very fortunate that, of course, it's not really fortunate to drop bombs, but we were fortunate enough to make the point come across, right? We dropped the first one, then the second one, and this is, of course, after many other tens of cities had been firebombed already, right? We had bombers in there just smoking Japanese locations and whatnot, and cities and factories and all that sort of stuff. But there, at least from what I read, there was such fanaticism and such fervor that even marching on it in land and whatnot would have caused just an obscene amount more of casualties. Because we saw how the Pacific Islands went, and we saw people literally fight to the death. Suicide runs. It would be nothing for at least at that time the Japanese to do what they did, and it was a scenario where we had the technology and we utilized it, right? So,
Right.
What do you mean by become soft?
They dropped those bombs and had no regard for men or women or children or vegetation or animals. And nowadays, when did we stop doing that? When did we stop doing that, and why? Over 3,000 people were killed in 9/11. Now, I know we retaliated, but we didn't retaliate like that, as far as I know. So when did we start letting people get away with the stuff they're getting away with now and not holding them to the measure of their aggressions or whatever, I guess? So I just wondered that, excuse me, nobody wants to be the bad guy now. Everybody wants to be the good guy. Well, there ain't no more good. There's not that many good guys left. So I just wondered when, I posed this question to a guy the other day, and he said Vietnam. At the end of Vietnam, that's when we got soft because we didn't accomplish anything. We seemed to, be running in place, or we didn't accomplish what we wanted to, and tens of thousands of soldiers died in that war. And he said he didn't say they threw their hands up, but something similar to they threw their hands up and said, what did we accomplish, and how did we do this, and why did we do this, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I just wondered when it changed. So instead of shaking somebody's hand, punching them in the face. Okay, basically.
That's a good point.
Metaphorically, another country, because we're supposed to be a superpower.
The giant
fish.
I
didn't want you to take it out of context. So, are you going to punch somebody in the face, Dad? You old dude. Yeah.
Well, okay, that's a great point in terms of when did we stop punishing those who do evil, is almost to a degree what you're saying. Right, if we can put it into some kind of context, let's look at it like this, though. Okay, we had to drop nukes because we didn't have the tech we have today. We didn't have the strategies we have today. So, and we did drop some Moabs, okay, on some desert dwelling folk, right? So, to a degree, we have dropped large explosives on things. But let's look at it like this: if we needed to take out targets instead of wiping out 80,000 people in the blink of an eye, I mean, it becomes hotter than the sun for like a second, and then it's like, boom, done. Well, doing that sort of thing is reckless, okay? We are smarter and we are better than that, right? Especially as a country, some would argue. But looking at it, we now have the tools to disassemble the infrastructure of some evil organizations if we possibly can. We can send a missile the size of a baseball bat through a window, knock out the highest level person, and then just watch the organization or whatever you want to call it dismantle itself to a degree, if we're lucky. Or we can have strategic, more strategic implementation of retaliation or punishment or whatever you want to call it. And it would be very irrational, especially right now, if we said, yeah, we're going to drop a nuke on these cats. Because what's exciting is, we stopped dropping nuclear weapons on people when other folks started getting nuclear weapons. Okay? Because it just takes one. Then it's over. I think it was Albert Einstein said World War III will be fought with nuclear arms. World War IV will be fought with bows and arrows, or sticks and arrows. So you have to understand that being soft, there to a degree, it's also being smart, right? We can't just say, you, bad, press button, and then, launch. Like, that doesn't work, because we don't know. We do know the allyships that are with people, the partnerships, trade, military, people, etc., that go with these nations. Like, the next world war is going to just end it all. Like, it's just going to go ham, and then people are just going to explode and not be here anymore. Well, it'll be like the Matrix, where the sun is blocked out because of all the ash from all the explosions that we, churn up and everything, and it'll just be a nightmare scenario. So to that end, America being soft, we have to make sure that when we say soft, we understand what's kind of happening here. We can't just say, we dropped some bombs, why don't we just drop more bombs? It's like, well, that doesn't work anymore. Because now we drop bombs, everyone drop bombs, and then it's over. To that point, we have been a little bit, I'll say, lax in certain areas, especially from what I read as well, reading up on this a little bit more. And it depends on where you read back to, depending on when it started and what people's opinions are about, think about like prosperity and good times. Well, that makes men and women soft, right? Because they don't have to be battle hardened. You just don't have to do it because it's good. It's peacetime, right? So, to that end, that could also be another reason why we're air quotes soft, is because why do we have to be hard? Why do we want to upset other national powers and just show off like our arms or our might just to make people mad when we can actually make a lot better, more strategic decisions like that?
Okay. I was just curious. I thought about that, and I just wondered, when did America just seem soft on the world stage? And doing a little research on it, Nagasaki wasn't the original target,
right?
And they had set a bunch of stuff on fire, and there was so much smoke and clouds and stuff that the bombers couldn't see the target, so they went for the second city.
Yeah,
I found that to be pretty interesting. So they just dropped a fat man and little boy and went on about their business. But
could you imagine
I just wondered,
like the serendipity of there being too much cloud coverage, so you can't drop the bomb? Like, that would just be insanity.
Yeah,
of how
I could see that.
Of how
I could see that they probably knew it was coming, and that's why they did that.
Well, I don't think that it was necessarily smoke. Was that more so? It depends on what you read, right? Like, where do you get your information from and whatnot? Because from what I've read or heard,
well, it's got to be true. It was on the internet, right?
Exactly. What I've read or heard in places is it was basically just it was the weather. Right, it was too cloudy. They couldn't get and of course you have to understand you can't go under a certain altitude if you're dropping the nuke, man. Like, you got to drop it way up high,
right? And
you got to be out of there because, that shock wave alone could just knock you out of the sky, and you're like, well, that was a suicide run, and it's pretty intense. But we can't. we can't drop, those large of weapons anymore because too many people in the world have the sort of retaliation power that will just wipe everyone out. So,
and our nuclear program is so outdated. It's really sad.
What do you mean?
If you look into the nuclear program, we're still got silos from the 50s and 60s that we were building, and they hadn't done a good job of keeping up with it and keeping it like it should be, from what I understand. But who am I to say?
I would love to know
if they
what
don't have the 2020 model.
Right. I would love to know what the air quotes standards are, because that would just kind of be would be something very interesting to figure out. Like, hey, these aren't up to snuff. Well, it's like, okay, well, I understand that they're nuclear missiles, and a lot of places like that are being, kind of decommissioned because I forget. I know the world power, or at least I believe I've heard this correctly, where, they're trying to reduce the amount of nuclear power in the world, right? And by that, I mean arms, not the actual power plants and stuff like that, but reduce the amount of nukes just in the world, because it's a scenario where you don't want a lot of those around because it's over.
Right.
Like when they start flying,
right.
Boom, done. And even if you could stop like 99% of them, the 1% would still black out the sun, man. Like, it would just not be good.
Right.
So, and you don't want a post-apocalyptic,
speaking
Mad
of the
Max
sun,
so
speaking of the sun, let me interject into tomorrow night. There's supposed to be a strawberry moon.
What's a strawberry moon?
So it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be like a strawberry, that color, kind of pinkish moon. I just happened to see that pass by today. It was a full moon. It looked like a full moon last night. It was awful pretty. Speaking of the sun and the moon, not that has anything to do with this discussion, but we can go off the rails if we want to.
Yeah, I'm going to throw up a strawberry moon here. Yeah. That's cool.
I think they said Thursday night, if it's clear.
Wow.
Should be able to see it. Pretty full, pretty colorful.
I was going to say, is that just in the southern hemisphere or air quotes everywhere?
I'm not sure. Don't start me to line. I don't know.
Well, folks, if you're out there, did you see the strawberry moon? Leave a comment down below if you saw it. Yeah, but hey, that's
get outside.
That's what people are saying. So, when did you say it was coming?
Yeah, get out of here.
So that's good, that the fact that like you can tell them that, but understand it's not live, right? So it's all pre-taped. So when we can say, hey, tell us if you saw it down below.
People that are live out there. Yeah, all you people that are live.
Yeah. You boppers keep bopping.
We need some live listeners. That's what we need.
Well, the problem with live is you're live and you're recorded, and that means any stuff that you say can and will be used against you forever and ever. So that's
in
why.
the court of law. That's right.
Well, that's why. Well, actually,
live, they get to listen. They don't get to say anything yet.
Well, that's the deal, right? Is if you do stuff live, then you actually can have people, especially like on YouTube, or if I was streaming this to Twitch or something like that, or streaming it to YouTube and then just save it after the fact with minimal editing and stuff, then they could comment. They could do like super chats and stuff like that, and then we would have people like talking, and then we could see it in real time. So maybe if things get a little bit bigger, we can look into that sort of thing. But yeah, that stuff would be wild for sure. Because real-time stuff, that'd be kind of scary, because if you don't have either yourself paying real close attention to what you're saying, or have somebody else like do the, block you out or whatever, things can get a little hairy.
Yeah,
so yeah, that's it. So just, you be careful, So.
Yeah.
Hey, bitch, I'm going to the moon. That's right, I said I'm going to the moon. I'll be back in a couple of days. Well, you be careful.
That'll be good.
We wouldn't want nothing to happen to Mr. J.
Yeah, most certainly. That is indeed the thing. So, talking about becoming soft a little bit, and I'll speak on this briefly. You know, I've gone back into the office, into my job, and I have indeed become soft. Now, you can take that for what it is, and I'll explain it as best I can. In terms of, I have become soft to the need for corporate culture. I become soft to the need for that social interaction. I definitely become soft to driving to work. Not something I need to do. There.
How long you been out? How long you been out?
Since March of 2020.
Okay.
So that would roughly be a year and 3 months ish. And
right.
It was a scenario that when I saw, like, I had to fill up my gas tank the other day, like yesterday. And when I saw it was like almost $50, I thought, "Mew," you know. I was like, oh, you're going to have to do this every week forever. And it's a scenario where you didn't, and it was pretty different. And also just waking up earlier in general, dealing with road rage, or people who are just on the road who have road rage, right? Losing that time every day. I mean, going into work is about 30-ish minutes, 35 maybe. And then coming home is like 45. And everyone's scrambling to get home because they didn't have to work, or they potentially work from home, and then now they're back. And so everyone, it's a literal race to get back home every single day. And it's humorous to look at how people slow down and drive and cut in front of each other and everything. And it's something that I was very much okay with not having to deal with at all, ever. I mean, just never, ever. Didn't have to worry about someone cutting you off, someone giving you the finger, you know, there being a car with a kid in front of you, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very much fortunate to have that time, that year and change, where it looked like things were going to be different from now on. You know, we thought that the world was going to change, and it was a scenario where it did. But you have some folks in the world who they don't want to change, that you got to fall in line, you know? And the statistical reasons behind that, I don't see many. So we'll just have to kind of figure it out, because I don't think a lot of the homeboys and homegirls are very apt to do that either. So we'll have to play that one by ear, for sure. You know, I'm trying to make the office as set up as much as my current home office is that you all see here, as best I can. You know, a decent chair, decent keyboard and mouse and screens and everything. You know, trying to crawl back into the corporate living, as it were. And that's a tough one. Not gonna lie. First day going back was rough. Like, I got home and I'm like, oh wow, that was a lot more difficult than I imagined, in terms of, you know, getting up, walking around the entire office just to get something to drink, having to, you know, walk around the entire office just to go to the restroom, having to, you know, walk and communicate with people. Like, interacting with people actually takes energy and time and focus and whatnot. And then getting set up and everything.
I think putting on pants would be the sad part, having to put pants on, you know.
So, to that end, well, no, see, I dress fully every day regardless, and I actually have it to where I can wear shorts for a hot minute, not forever, but at least for the time being. Hopefully, at least until maybe the middle or end of July, I'll be able to wear shorts, because, dude, it's hot. And especially when we got people in the office who are in their 60s, and certain folks are cold all the time. As we've stated before, gardens are pretty well insulated, so we don't get cold that often.
That's right.
And so it's well, you know, What's going to really be fun is dealing with those little interactions when everybody gets back in the office and everybody feels different. And like hot, cold, this, that. They're being too loud.
I'm gonna get you one of those little bitty fans, one of those
I have
little
one.
6-inch fans
I have
to
one.
put
Yeah.
on your desk.
No, I got one.
Okay.
Yep, it blows right in my
Okay.
face. It's fantastic. You know, and it's a scenario that it's going to be very exciting to navigate the little interactions that are going to really tick people off because they haven't had to deal with anybody else for a year and change. That changes
Face to
people.
face.
Oh yeah. So when people used to,
absolutely.
yeah, people used to have the phone calls about, man, this is silly. Well, now the silly person is right there. You can't have those conversations anymore, right? So it's like, well,
Right.
now you be careful, you know. It's like, hey, everybody needs to check yourself. So super fun dealing with that. And now it is the marathon to the end, right? We'll do what I'm 40. I'm 33. So, you know, we're looking at another 40 years, give or take. So,
Right.
you know, I'm running a marathon. And do you
Right.
know who else is running a marathon?
No.
I think there's a 100-year marathon that we're talking about. I'm trying to set you up to segue into the 100-year marathon.
I had one more question about softness. Do you think that the single parent households have contributed to the softness?
I was gonna say I know all about softness, but that's not making the cut. Single parent household. So, okay. Let me ask you this: single parent household, just in general, or one way or the other, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
So
It doesn't matter. I you know, it's funny. I bought Pat a Father's Day present.
okay,
And she said, "Well, what's the Father's Day present for?" And I said, "Because you raised 4 boys, you've got 4 sons. That the father wasn't always there, so you had to be a mother and a father." So I said, "So you get to celebrate Mother's Day and Father's Day for those 4 sons that you have." So
that's
I
fair.
don't think she got it, but you know,
Well, it's
So-
a scenario that does in general, I'll say yes, and that's because I wouldn't say it's made people softer, but I think it does make people weaker overall to have single parent households, and that's because you know, this isn't some like religious thing or whatever, but I do think that you know, you are stronger as parents if you're a team, right? Like just in general.
if it's a unit,
Right.
sure.
And it doesn't have to be the nuclear family that we're not talking about that. But I do think that each side of that proverbial coin can be more useful, and it can be more helpful in terms of giving people stability and giving people the opportunity to interact with both sides. Just speaking from my own experience, I mean, 2 parents I always thought was better than 1. That's just how it is. You know, I'm a parent of divorce, as you know, and it was a scenario where when it was 2v1 in this instance, I think you all probably had a grasp on things a little bit better than when it was just like me versus 1 parent, because at that point it's like, what's going on here, you know?
Right.
And, you know, being the smart ass and little asshole that I am, and especially was when I was a teenager, you know, in high school, like I'm sure many teenagers are, and that's just kind of how it goes from my experience. You definitely need both sides. And I think a majority of folks now who do the single parent thing are, you know, ladies, and it's a tough one, man. Like that is no easy job, because you're dealing with a child, if not multiple children. You're dealing with trying to have to work or provide. And I just don't think it's very conducive to making a whole person. Take that for what it is. Good, bad, ugly.
Right.
I think it's better overall. I don't know if it's going to make your kids softer, because actually some kids might be harder because they had to deal with the opposition, right? Like they had to have a harder time. So some, not all, parents or kids can come out better. And I have a few friends, won't mention any names, but their father passed away, and well, this guy's one of the most with it guys that I know. Is he soft? Maybe, but he's a million light years more successful than myself. So it doesn't really matter whether or not I think he's going to be able to kick somebody's ass. Do I think he's going to be able to tackle any problem that comes his way and be able to solve it with relative ease because he has a great partner and he's got stuff to live for and work for? Hundy P. So it is what it is, and it's a crapshoot regardless. Single parent households, do they have it harder? I think so, but is it gonna mean that people are softer or gonna turn out, air quotes, more poorly? I don't think so. I think that's totally a crapshoot because I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's a whole show topic right there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you could do a very long program about, or a very long segment about single parent households and when did that start and when did it skyrocket and who it affects more. And of course, then it would get a little racially derivative there, but that's statistically, that's just how it is, right? Like we would see a lot more of, this, that, and this, and then people would start losing their minds because that's just the nature of things nowadays. And then it's like, oh, well, now, you're banned on FooTube. So it is what it is. But
okay.
Now, to that question.
All running a marathon, right?
Well, no, the real question here, we'll bounce that back to you. What do you think about it? Because you asked me, but you didn't tell me what your thoughts were.
Well, I didn't have any thoughts. I was asking the question. I was doing the questioning. I wasn't doing the answering.
So
I don't know. Fair. That's a tough situation. It's a tough situation.
It is.
It is.
It very much is.
But that is one of the reasons I promoted her on Father's Day, was because it's a single parent household for a long time with 4 boys. That's collectively a cluster.
Okay.
Which, they all turned out okay. So
that's fair.
Anyway,
well, let's do a hot take here. Okay, let's do a hot take real fast. Do you think that I'm softer because part of my life was in a single parent household?
No.
Okay. Well, there you go. So easy peasy. And hey, that's just sometimes sometimes it don't seem like it be like that, but it do. So speaking of marathons, we kind of touched on this a little bit before we kind of bounced it around between segments and whatnot. But the next thing we wanted to talk about, which let me set up this story here. Happy Father's Day, everybody, belated. We had a great call with you, and that was really cool. We were doing Discord and whatnot. Well, harken back, beginning of this story, I went into my favorite Irish pub in Nashville. Shout out to McNamara's. And I was sitting at the bar, and these 2 guys sit right beside me. And they're 2 fathers, right? One was the dad, and then one was the dad of the dad, or the granddad, I guess you could say. And they start talking, and we start chit-chatting and stuff. And this guy talks about this book, and I'll put up a photo of it, The 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury. And he starts giving me this information about this book. And I forget how we randomly came up talking about this. Maybe one too many pints or whatever, but it was something else. And he said it's an incredible
maybe shipping from China.
Honestly, it could have been, because people ask, I will tell them what I do or where I work or whatever. And in terms of like, oh, I work 2 miles down the road that way. And then the next question obviously is, well, what do you do? And of course, then that could definitely have segued into shipping and receiving and kind of how things are going and the whole state of the world in terms of freight and moving and stuff like that. Watch our previous episode if you want to learn more about that and why things are the way they are right now. And he starts talking about this book. And one of the parts in the story that he was talking about was how we had folks, or me and the mouse in my pocket, how the Chinese had sent kids in education programs to universities, very nice universities inside of the United States. And then they were, of course, talking about kind of the government and how things were over there. And so they would, like, the student would go over and say, hey, I love it over here. I'd love to stay and whatnot. And then you would have the officials who ran the program of the what's it called, like study abroad programs over in China. And they would say, very candidly, yeah, we'd really like you to come back. And then they would say, but I really like it over here. And then of course the government officials or whomever over there would say, well, we know who your grandparents are. And if you want their health to remain as good as it is, wink, wink, you'll go ahead and come back. And I was very intrigued. And of course, it's a book, right? So take it at face value. This is air quotes what's going on, but it can only be proven by a slew of evidence. Read the book yourself. Dad, you want to give us kind of what the 100-year marathon is and about? Kind of gave a little bit of a preface there. But what does the 100-year marathon mean by Michael Pillsbury? And yes, we do mean Pillsbury Doughboy.
It's a Chinese concept that they decided that it's actually a revenge concept, and the Chinese have a plan over 100 years. 65 years are down. We're in the middle now, where there's 34 years left, and their plan was to seek revenge on the United States as a superpower. Their plan was to surpass us. So everything that they've done, the deception with the Chinese is incredible. Right now they're like, oh, woe is us, and we've got all these gazillions of people, and they can't eat, and it's pollution, and there's all this kind of stuff. That's a load of crap. It is. Michael Pillsbury, if you do a little background on him, he's worked in the intelligence divisions of the U.S. government for like the last 40 years. He spent a lot of time, probably all 40 years, studying China, hundreds of trips over to China, and talked to people that have defected, and talked to people that have gone over there, and agents. And this book had to be cleared by the FBI and the CIA and a couple of the NSA before it could be produced, because he didn't want to jeopardize anybody's current situation. And it's not military surpassing.
Correct.
I mean, if you think about it, yeah. And what was funny today, I was watching a news feed, and there's a Chinese defector over here, and he supposedly got a ton of information on spies that are here and people that have infiltrated the government. This guy's even saying that people have infiltrated the FBI and the CIA and other places, that there are Chinese spies that have infiltrated those organizations.
I'm sure.
And it was so funny seeing that after getting into this book. And I'm only in about a third of the way through the book.
Right.
And basically, you think about it this way, they've already surpassed the United States.
In what way?
In economic success. Think about it. First of all, they've already surpassed us in a bioweapon. China, put the COVID over here and killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Okay, so they've surpassed us in the bioweapons. The electronics that you have, everything we buy electronically is made in China. Most of it, I'd say, 98%, 95% of the stuff we buy is made in China.
I was going to say, I need to look at the bottom of my. This.
Hey, easy.
You're cool. Your thing that you gave me. That's made in China.
What does it say on there? What does it say on the cup?
It says, "My gun is not a problem until you are." So, but.
Alrighty.
But that's hilarious because think about it like that.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. I'm thinking about it like that. They've surpassed us in the bioweapons.
Okay.
They've surpassed us in the electronics, the clothes. Economically, they're wearing us out, and we owe them gazillions. We owe them gazillions of dollars.
Billions and 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 billions.
Yeah. We as Americans, we think everybody wants to be like us.
No.
Because we're America.
No. The smart
why is the
folk.
border overflowing if everybody wants? Yeah, the smart ones. Everybody used to want to be like Americans. Not now they don't, but
Right.
they used to want to be like Americans. Okay, but they've already surpassed us, and they have a goal, and they have a plan, and you need to go on YouTube, and you need to Google, not YouTube, but you need to in the search bar, the search engine, 100-year marathon. Yeah. And he's got some little 5 and 6 minute clips on there that he tells you what, gives you a summary. The book is like a 9-hour read on audiobook.
Yeah.
But he's got some 5 or 6 minute little snippets that'll give you the general information. We're screwed, man.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I was talking to my brother down in Georgia about this.
Yeah.
And he said, he and we're retired. We're in good shape. We're in good health, collecting our Social Security. He said, but I don't know what to tell my children. He's got children like I do. He's got one that's like 40 or 42 and another one that's like 39 or so, 40 maybe, a son and a daughter. And he said, I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to tell them where this is headed. And it's just, it's really, they let us come over there and they go, oh yeah, bring your Starbucks and bring your McDonald's and bring your KFC. Yeah. Life's great. No, it's not. No, it's not. They're just trying to figure out how we do stuff.
Sure.
That's what they're trying to do, is figure out how we do things. And that's what they're doing. It's a revenge. And the deception, these guys are so, that's where the ninjas came from, I guess. These guys are so deceptive. You never see them. You never see it coming.
I do think it's interesting that they did speak on, because I'm kind of listening to parts of the audiobook as well. I'm jumping around a little bit more, but I do think it's pretty interesting. And eventually I will get through the entire thing. But what made me take pause was when they talk about this, and one of the things that makes it so difficult to figure out was that this plan of this 100-year marathon, of course, at least from the book, right, it's not written down anywhere. I mean, it's just not laid out, right? It's something that it's
not for us.
It's not laid out for them that we are aware of.
Well, they've got pictures on the wall that kind of tell a story, and there's places they won't let tourists go, and there's things they won't let you see, and those are signs of what's coming down the road.
Right, but there's no clearly laid out plan in terms of okay, we got to do this and got to do this and got to do this. It's more of an ideal, and just like you said, there are places, where Tiananmen Square or things like that, where they do have I mean, things that are straight up just in Chinese that, of course, tourists take pictures with every single day, not knowing that
Right.
it's more of like a
I
giant
have no
finger
idea what
that's
what
right
what it
there.
says.
And they're like, yeah,
Right.
look at
Yeah.
this. This is cool.
Yep.
And, you know, this is pretty interesting. And it's a scenario that people don't know. You know,
Right.
you want to talk about people being soft? Well, people are also, I think, soft more on worldly happenings, right? Because
Right.
we are so entrenched nowadays where it's right versus left, or conservative versus liberal, or radicals versus moderates, or whatever you want to call it. We're so entrenched and in infighting that it's just going to come. They're going to kick our ass. Like, it'll be,
Right.
I'll have to
Right.
cut
We'll
in.
destroy ourselves from within.
We will weaken ourselves enough to where the overtaking will be nominal, right? It'll be, okay, cool.
You know, the unemployment rate.
That joke is so funny. Like, it's not funny in this context, but that's what's going to happen. You know, it's going to be, and it's not even going to be Red Dawn either. It's going to be, hey, watch them set up or just any other power in general. Like, we don't have to point out China, but of course that's kind of the topic here. Watch them set up something to where they just cut us off at the knees. And in all honesty, if we keep infighting and don't focus on what's important, which that can be up to whomever is the person, right?
We'll destroy ourselves from within.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that, to a degree, it's a little bit unnerving, but you have so many people, especially in my generation, that are like, yeah, screw it, bring it. Like, just you know, launch the nukes, screw it, move on. You know, let's have the next few generations try again. And so many people are jaded and whatnot that we're like, hey, screw it, man, it's all good. Like, if the world's gonna, like, I'll always posit this joke where I don't mind if I die. Just make it painless, right? Done. Okay, cool. So whether or not it be this, that, or the other, hey, you know, just don't make it painful. Don't drag it out, that sort of thing. And it's something that with this, you're right. I think their GDP now is maybe as big, if not bigger than ours. You're 100% correct in terms of
ours.
And you're right, when we owe them so many monies for bonds and stuff like that. And it's pretty incredible. And you're right,
everything we get comes from them.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
everything we get comes from them.
No, not everything, but
98% of it.
I would say a very large portion.
Okay.
Hey,
be careful.
That's the thing, but we can't say everything, right? Because that's not true, and then that discredits us, and then people will stop paying attention.
Oh my God, nobody's going to listen. They're going to get some. We're going to get some thumbs down, those unlikes or dislikes or whatever. That's so funny.
But the dislikes, they hurt our feelings.
Middle finger up there is what they. Yeah.
So it should be a thumbs up or a middle finger. Like, that's the two things. Or if you really hate it, do the double barrels there. You know, they have like, I really dislike this. Right. You know, but yeah, it's something else, and you're right. They are very secretive in terms of letting foreigners into certain places and letting certain folks have access to certain things. But I mean, every country is like that, though. You know, I mean, we're not inviting folks into our, Pentagon or secret fortresses or wherever, the war rooms, and saying
this goes all the way. So. This goes back to Nixon and Reagan and all that. This goes way back to those guys. This has been going on for a long, long time. And the average schmo has no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And China's just like, everything is everything. We're doing the best we can. We're struggling and all this kind of stuff. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not struggling. You're not struggling. And anybody that speaks out against you, they just kill them. So they're moving forward and they've got a plan and they're going on the plan, man.
It
Yeah,
does. It
that's
does
what they're
sound
doing.
like
They're
that's kind of
sticking
what's
to the
happening.
plan,
Well, and this
and they're
I'm
moving
looking
right
at
on by everybody else.
maybe.
They don't have to have the largest military.
Why is that?
They don't have to have the largest military to well, if you read the book
Mm-hmm.
or listen to the book in like the second chapter,
Yeah.
they talk about like the Red River, where there's 1 million soldiers on one side of it,
Yeah.
and a much smaller army on the other side, and the deception that these two guys think that they're outsmarting each other,
Mm-hmm.
and the smaller on the south side of the river defeats the larger, group of people. They tell them to tie their boats together. If you moor your boats together in this river, it'll be easier to control them. Well, they moor them together or tie them together somehow, and they watch till the winds blow in a certain direction, and they set one boat on fire, and it burns them all up because they're all
Right.
tied together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the book, and it's like
I was
really?
going to say you should
Yeah.
read
So these
Sun
guys
Tzu's
thought they
Art
would
of War.
outsmart
so,
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's they refer to that several times in there too.
Right.
I think everybody ought to watch the movie Red Dawn. That was an interesting movie, way before its time.
Yeah, but
Patrick Swayze,
wasn't
Red
that the
Dawn.
communist Russians at that point?
That was Russia.
Yeah.
It was Russia.
I was going to say
Or
so.
that
So
through
you,
Mexico.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. I was going to say you think it's going to become China then, at that point?
Well, see, China thinks that we're teaming up against Russia together. No, we're not.
Well,
No, we're not.
No,
We're not
I
teaming
don't.
up with anybody.
I don't think it's more so they think we are teaming up with them against Russians. I think what's occurring is it's more of a scenario where, hey, let's what they say in the book. It's borrow a sword, to kill your enemy, or to fight your enemy. Where
Right.
China is more or less utilizing us to try and take down some of the power that Russia may have, and then in the air quotes alliance or thing of that sort, we'll be fighting Russia, figuratively. I don't think it's going to come to blows. I think China would actually have more of an issue with Japan at this point and just start wiping them out, and that's how we would actually come into a conflict. Because if you read later on in the book, because like I said, I'm skipping around a little bit, it says that China and Japan just do not like each other in the slightest, and one of the reasons being
Not at all.
Because Japan seems like I don't want to say a little America, because it most certainly is not, but it's had a lot more Western influence than China has, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting. And,
Right.
and then what that put in my head was, okay, we'll come to blows when the U.S., hilariously enough, softies, go and help Japan against China because they get too uppity or something like that. It'll be, it's pretty interesting.
I heard somebody refer to people as useful idiots the other day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing
Interesting.
it is, and something to look at as well is, I'm not sure if folks have heard out there the word simp, right? It's something where like you just would do anything for whatever you're simping for, right? So look at Hollywood as an example, or media in general, where a good example was out of the book. They talk about the movie Gravity and how they actually had to change up who did what in the movie to make it more palatable and marketable, and actually just even allowed into the China markets. Something that was incredible. And I'll try to find the two pictures where it's side by side, because China is not as progressive as people may think it is, or might not know it is, or whatever. But I'm sure some people will know what I'm talking about. And of course, like I said, I'll try to find the picture where if you put up the posters, right, of one of the Star Wars movies, Okay, you have a character who was a stormtrooper, and then he kind of busts out of that role, and then has his redemption arc. He's a large figure in one of the posters. In the Chinese poster, you can barely see him. Well, do you know the whole point of that? Well, he's a black guy. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. And they have several movies that I've heard about where you would have something would be thrown into it where it seems like more of the hero is like the Asian guy. And it wouldn't even be about that really at all, but it's promoted like that because you know who's got like the biggest market in the world for domestic or for like gross domestic product? Well, it's China. And you know where I want my movie to be successful at? I want it successful in China because I'm going to make about $1 billion extra dollars. So that was something that I thought was very interesting. Overall is that's, I think, another reason kind of hearkening all the way back to our first segment was why are people being soft? Well, it's like, because it's about money. You know, I'm going to be soft on you because if I hit you with my very large stick, do you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to buy my stuff. Well, it's all about an exchange of dollars nowadays, my friend. So when I have a movie that I don't think would have done nearly as well had it not been for the Chinese market, here's looking at you, Captain Marvel, that made like over 60% of its profits or something crazy in China. That's the only reason why it made over $1 billion, right? That movie wasn't that great, but you had the funds because they marketed it really well in China. So that's why people are being nice to them and being buddy-buddy with them or even just simping for them, right? It might be something where if we aren't cool with these cats for right now, I'm not going to make as much money. And if the 100-year marathon is a thing,
I just don't think,
then I don't know.
I don't think the average American has any idea how deep their tentacles run into America. I just don't think they have any idea. The average American doesn't have any idea how deep they're embedded into our country. China is. I just don't.
Well, and
people they don't have a clue.
Sure, and that's fair to say, but there could be a lot of other books out there that's, maybe not called the 100-year marathon, but where a lot of countries have their roots or their hooks or whatever you want to call it into America, right? You could have a ton of these things. Different countries, different religions, different this, different that. So we just haphazardly are talking about this one because that's what we heard about and it was kind of interesting to us. But I think that China isn't the only one with a plan. I think that's kind of silly to think about, but it is kind of wild to look at it and say, and see, hey, this is something else. And it's not anything to scoff at because if things go down the way that certain power, other global superpowers want, well, what's going to happen? Are you ready to leave?
What do you do?
Well, I was going to say, are you ready to leave your shoes at the door? I don't know.
No. Well, I said I don't put on shoes now, and this is probably the only time during the week that I put a shirt on. So.
Oh well,
it's
there
tough
you go.
living on the beach.
Yeah, so. Yeah. We'll send you our violin, or I don't know, what do they play? The shamisen in China or something like that. So we'll have to.
Something.
We'll play that for you.
Send me something.
Because we all need a little something. That's for sure. But yeah, so that's the 100-year marathon. Right. We'll leave a link in the description for
check it out.
Yeah, the Wikipedia entry on that, and also see if we can put in a link for the audiobook, or at least say, hey, you can find this on YouTube, because they do have the entire audiobook is on there. So something that if you're
it's a 9-hour and change gig. Yeah.
Right. Well, luckily, since you don't have to read it, it makes it a little bit easier. Or if you have a commute now and you are finished with our podcast and left a like and a comment and hit the notification bell, then you can start listening to that afterwards. You know what I mean? So
There you go.
You know,
That's right.
good stuff there. Gotta plug. Gotta do all the plugs. So, yeah, well, and that was a marathon in and of itself. That discussion. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, sir. I'm good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
I'm good.
that's a wild one for
I'm
sure.
happy. Got our visas. So
Hey,
yeah.
you're legal now.
Yeah.
So reckless abandon
Hey,
for all the illegals.
If you can't bite, don't growl. If you
Yeah,
can't bite, don't growl.
that's what we should name this this episode. Is if you can't bite, don't growl. So I'm sure people
That's right.
will enjoy
There
that.
you go.
And whatnot. So, excuse me. Well, thank you everybody
There
for
you
watching the Jay and Thomas podcast. There, please leave a comment down below if what you think about the book. If you listened to it or read up on it, do you think that we're right, or do you think we're blowing smoke? You know, let us know. Is this potentially propaganda from one side or the other?
Hit the button.
Yeah. One of my
propaganda. Yeah, I like that.
So
Yeah.
is this fake news? You know, let us know, and then
Yeah, like it gives us anything, you know.
What's
Yeah,
that?
Whatever.
So
I feel like it would gain us anything.
Oh, gain us
I
anything.
lied about something, you know. Like,
well,
oh,
and
wait, we
remember,
went
folks.
we went over that
Remember,
line
folks.
and-
Only lie if it gains you something, and it can't be proven false. Just some silliness.
That's
man.
right.
That's
right.
it. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and we will catch y'all next time.
See you.